Oh. Do I need to start over? We'll go ahead and call the December 14th meeting of the Danville Public Works Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Michael Kane.
Here.
Brenda Brown.
Present.
Bob Iverson. Heidi Purtell.
Present.
Jim Pashard.
Present.
Carolyn Wands.
Present.
Chairman Mike Poor.
Present.
6 present.
Let the minutes reflect that Vice Mayor Iverson is in quarantine because some of his family members were exposed to COVID. So that's why he's not here. Okay. We do have a quorum. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes. We'll be approving the minutes of the November 9th, 21 meeting. If there's no corrections, need a motion to approve those, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to item number 4, audience comments. First, we'll do a public hearing on the petition to vacate a public utility easement or part thereof at 266 Eastgate Drive for Vermilion Development, Inc. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the petitioner? Anyone here to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and we will deal with that later on in the agenda.
Chairman?
Now- Yes.
I don't believe we approved the agenda.
We did not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Too many strikes already. Okay, we need to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any of the audience comments? Okay. Chairman's comments, just a couple things. Since we will not meet again until next year, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We also are going to be discussing again the solid waste and the toters and things later on in the meeting. You'll also notice that we have a lot of agenda items dealing that would usually go to public services, but since they're not meeting in 2 weeks, they asked to come to our meeting, so that's why we have Chief Yates and everyone else here. So with that, we'll move on to item number 6, approval of the payrolls. Those would be for the December 10th run. Need a motion to put that on the table, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, questions on payrolls? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Pashard.
Present.
Wands.
Yes.
O'Kane.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Iverson. Purtell.
Yes.
Poor.
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Item number 7 is approval of the vouchers payable. These will be from December 14th. I need a motion to put those on the table, please.
So moved.
Second.
Questions on the payables? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Wands.
Yes.
O'Kane.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Iverson. Purtell.
Yes.
Pashard.
Yes.
Poor.
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Moving on to item number 8, we have Finance, Comptroller Massey.
I'll be covering that for this evening.
Mayor will be covering that. 8A is a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Danville and Labor's District Council and Labor's Local 703 Clerical Bargaining Unit. Need a motion to put that on the table, please.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, questions, or who wants to take this?
A couple of, I think it's been almost 2 months ago now, you all approved the creation of a few positions. At that time, we had not come to an agreement on with the union as to whether or not certain positions would be in the union, and we have now, and this simply memorializes that to acknowledge which positions will be a part of the union.
Questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman O'Kane.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Iverson. Purtell.
Yes.
Pashard.
Yes.
Wands.
Yes.
Poor.
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 8B is an ordinance amending section 39.07 of the city code pertaining to compensation of municipal employees. Need a motion to put that on the table, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay,
Chairman and committee, this just memorializes that in our wage chart, the items that we just passed in 8A.
right, roll call, please.
Question.
Oh, yes.
When do we go to the $15? I mean, how many more of these increases?
2025. I believe it's July of 2025. So it would be our 25-26 budget that everyone will have to be up to $15 an hour.
Okay, because that's basically what we're doing, right? On the temporaries and stuff.
On the temporaries, those you already increased to the level that we're supposed to for this year.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then if a union employee is salaried, can they receive overtime? Just curious.
Yes, they may.
Okay,
It depends on their position and their role. For example, if a person makes a certain wage by the federal law, if a person makes a certain wage, I want to say it's in the $40-some thousand range, and they supervise other employees, then those individuals can be ineligible, or what's called exempt.
but these new employees, if can get overtime for, okay,
Yes, sir.
very good.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, Purtell,
Yes.
Burchard,
Yes,
Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
yes.
Ford,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Mayor, any items, information that you know of?
Just want to say that the comptroller and her team have been working hard. We're starting to finally receive less calls now that we've gotten a few things straightened out. We have made some updates to the billing card to clarify a few of the things that you all had questions about. I'll be honest, we probably will have one more update after this to get everything on there, but it should be a lot more clear for our citizens in terms of where you remit to, the different payment options, et cetera, on the actual card itself.
Mayor, and I know, is the sanitary district going to take off that you can write a check to them for both bills? Have we talked to them about that? Because it still says on their bill, you may make one check.
Yeah, it's been
I doubt
confusing for a lot of
And I've
people.
talked to some people that sent everything out to Bedford.
We will.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, we have the fire, Don McMaster's fire chief. 9A is a resolution amending the fire division budget 022. Should we take these together, chief?
We can if you wish.
Yes, I would say.
And then we'll take item B, which is also amending the fire division budget for 022. And then also C, resolution authorizing amendment of the fiscal year 21-22 capital improvement budget, 302 budget. If there's no objection, take all three of those together, and we'll let the chief explain.
Their motion.
I need a motion in a second, please.
Motion.
Second.
Chief?
It's on. The first one is to amend the budget to account for the excessive overtime that has expended our overtime budget for the year already. Between, I have multiple people that have been off for extended periods of time on duty, as well as a couple of off-duty injuries. I've had a significant rise in cases of COVID again, as well as other issues that are causing such. A couple retirements, and the retirements now, it'll take approximately 6 months worth of training to get the retirements replacements on the road that count towards manning. So of course that costs overtime on manning on the back end until that's done. That is item 9A. Item 9B is just simply our station supplies. That is everything to run the operations of the department 24 hours a day. That's everything from Windex and 409 to toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning chemicals, everything that goes with that. We had talked when the original budget came out last year that we, based on our guesstimations, that we were going to be light on that based on prices of everything going up. And we discussed it. I discussed it with Ashlyn at that point, and she said, well, we'll see. And if we need more, we'll make an adjustment accordingly. So that's what that is.
Chairman, this is the first year that we've separated office supplies back out by department. They were centrally purchased before. We believe that we can save some money by folks ordering their own components.
And again, where the mayor said, we used to, it was always just, we would contact central purchasing when we needed things and we would purchase it and then they would handle the budget. Well, based on guesstimations between us and the comptroller, what the new year's budget was going to be, since we were starting from scratch, we didn't totally disagree. And unfortunately for me, we were in the right to the effect of we needed more money. So 9C is to make a budget amendment for multiple items, multiple things. The first one being preemptive vehicle kits. As those of you are aware of the many discussions you had over the new Carl facility downtown. Part of those discussions were because of the facts they were changing and adding the street lights to all the intersections right along there and around there, that Carl would provide what they call preemptive systems for those street lights in that area. And what that means is when vehicles with lights and sirens on are coming up to that intersection, it will automatically change those intersection lights to open up the intersection for the vehicles for safety purposes as well as speed. I did not realize as part of that discussions that Carl is provided the systems on the lights themselves. We actually have to provide the pieces that go on the vehicles. So the 6544 is to cover that for two vehicle systems for this year that are the two vehicles that are the closest within that area of town that respond in that area of town. And then I have for budgets from here on out, I have allotted to add more of those units to other units in my own budget for the future. But this is to get the first two ones on the apparatus now. The tires and wheels, we, due to an agreement, whatever you want to call it, Chief Yates had a vehicle that he no longer needed. I'm in need of a vehicle because I had to redline one and take one out of service for frame rust issues. He had the vehicle that he no longer needed. It would work for my application for the time being to get me by for a while for a vehicle, but it is in dire need of new tires and wheels because it was a seized vehicle that they received from an individual. It's got the low profile and fancy looking tires and wheels on it. Well, that's not acceptable and doesn't work for me responding to emergency in January in the snow. So it needs wheels and tires. So that's simply just to put wheels and tires on that new vehicle that I took off of the police department. The third one is body repairs on an apparatus. We had an incident approximately 2 weeks ago, leaving a emergency scene. They backed a vehicle into a pole. It did $1,898 worth of damage to the vehicle. Insurance will cover with $1,000 deductible. Insurance will give us back portion of that, but I was told I needed to move all the money now to pay the entire bill. And then when we get the money back from the insurance, it just goes back into the general fund. So those are the three items on 9C. With that, you have the quotation. The first page after that is the quotation for, I think it is, I assuming yours looks the same as mine, for a quotation from Traffic Control Corporation. That is for the cost of one preemptive kit. So obviously we need two. Trusselli, after that is Trusselli's bid on the damage to the vehicle that needs to be repaired. Any questions?
Chief, then are other communities that will be you having to go through those lights all have to get their own preemptive kits to install in their apparatus, right?
Correct. If they choose to be a part of that system, absolutely. They'll have to buy those same units for their system and pay their mechanic or whoever to install them for them. Correct.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the chief? Okay, seeing none, roll call on 9A, B, and C.
Alderman Iverson, Pertel,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
4,
Yes,
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Chief, any items of information?
The only thing we are working on, Chris, they were working on that's going to be coming to you hopefully soon. I've been back and forth with the mayor on it, that Chris and I have been working on for a while to go hand in hand with our new fire reporting system that we are working on getting installed and built right now that you guys have already obviously approved. That is supposed to go live. That new system is supposed to go live in February. That will include not only a new complete reporting system for handling all, reporting all of our calls, but it'll also make us compatible with the public safety building, similar to what the police officers are now, to where we will have similar to an MDT in our rigs that gives us second by second information from the dispatchers. Everything that they receive in their 911 calls will go automatically onto that system for us to see it, as well as we will be integrated into the GIS system that will pop up and show us exactly where we're going, which will tell us where the closest hydrants are, where the Knox box keys are on the buildings, where sprinkler connections are on the buildings, everything else that goes with that. That is supposed to go live in February. We've got the equipment that we're getting ready to start getting installed in the trucks right now as part of that. But another thing that goes with that is there's a new program for the purposes of doing building inspections, commercial level inspections, that goes with that. And part of what we've had to do is what the city currently has that is up by ordinance is the city is currently using the 2003 version of the International Fire Code and the 2000 version of the life safety codes. And of course, the company that's inputting all this information into our system for us said, we can't even get databases for the codes that old anymore. So Chris and I have been working with the mayor about what we do and don't want to exclude or exempt from the new codes, so we can get the new codes put in place, bring them both up to the 2018 versions of those codes. So we've been working on that for a while, but that's going to have to come to a head here pretty quick. So we'll probably be bringing that to council here soon, with what the new ordinance will read and what would the exemptions or things that we will not utilize out of the existing codes. The big discussion the mayor and I have had about one of them is residential sprinklers. The new code has a section in it in reference to putting residential sprinklers in new buildings of residences. So if somebody's building a new house, they have to put a residential sprinkler in it. The mayor's not totally, we've had long discussions, and he's not totally sold on us and implementing that portion. And I have actually spoken to several departments in several big towns in the general vicinity around here, and a lot of those have done the same thing. They've not implemented the residential sprinklers portion of these codes yet. And so we will be bringing to you what the new ordinance potentially would be, and bring that for vote here, hopefully very, very soon. Those are the major things I've got going right now.
Okay.
Any
Questions for Chief McMasters? Okay, thank you, Chief. Moving on to item number 10, legal, Corporation Counsel Simon. We have 10A, a resolution approving the termination of an intergovernmental agreement. I need a motion to put that on the table, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Counsel Simon.
As you know, we have been handling more or less 19 separate units of government and handling the legal aspects of their code enforcement. A couple of the units of government have not used our services that much, but many of them have, and some have used it quite extensively. Needless to say, that takes up a lot of time in legal, both down here in administrative adjudication, as well as across the street in small claims court. We have not always received the best cooperation from the villages in terms of supplying current ordinances, providing accurate reporting. So there are extra tasks involved in at least getting a case ready for them. We have a problem with small claims court. They limit us to 30 cases per court date, which is Monday mornings. Those include, many of them include continuances or reporting to the court of people who've been picked up on body attachments, which are basically warrants to take them into custody because they haven't shown up a number of times in court. Thus, we, for our cases as well, and of course, some of those cases are village cases. So we are very slow in getting City of Danville cases on the dockets for collection purposes of our fines and court costs. As you probably know, the villages do not pay us anything for this service. We assess court costs in every case, $105. Our collection rate of court costs, which are collected after the fines are fully paid, is running between 6 and 10%.
For the
Yeah, no.
village is correct.
Hmm?
For the village is correct, Corpus Council.
Well, for basically, well, the villages for sure. And as I say, it is very time consuming. I believe you received something called the anatomy of an ordinance violation case, and hopefully it's detailed, but those are the steps, and there are frankly more that are involved in handling one of these kinds of cases. And the mayor and I have talked about this on and off for a good 4 or 5 months, I would say. And we concluded that city legal department resources on these matters should be devoted to Danville cases. This does not affect inspections. It affects bringing the results of those inspections where violations are found and not remediated to ordinance violation court. We affectionately refer to it as either municipal court or muni court, and that's the court proceedings that happen down here in the council chambers, including trials on Tuesday and Thursday, the last Tuesday and Thursday, I believe, of the month, and then every Thursday. And obviously, we have 2 legal assistants that devote a lot of time to managing the docket, getting the cases teed up. And of course, Assistant Corporation Counsel has to prepare for and handle these cases. I can assure you that their work is not suddenly going to diminish greatly. They're going to be just as busy with cases because we'll be able to handle and process more city cases. So it really becomes a question of priorities and allocation of relatively scarce resources and all. And, I prefer as corporation counsel that we devote our attention to the folks in your wards and the alderpersons who are not here, their wards.
And Chairman, I just want to add, they did an assessment over a time period, and essentially 20% of our cases are about 20% of the time that in the legal department is spent on these things. Well, imagine if suddenly we can devote that to the things that you guys are facing in our wards and that we're facing throughout the city, especially when we're not getting really remunerated for it properly. Literally, we're doing this as almost a courtesy to other places, and I would love to help other places, but it's our job to help our people first and foremost.
Questions for Corporation Counsel Simon? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Patel.
I'm sorry, Chairman.
I just curious where this leaves the county villages after May 1st.
Well, they have a number of choices. In terms of collection, they're going to have to pick up their own collection cases, the ones that are pending and the ones they want to initiate. They did that before they started with us. And in terms of new ordinance violation cases to establish liability, and if liabilities establish fines, they can set up their own systems. They can enter into an intergovernmental agreement to cooperate and set up a system for some or all of the villages that are loosely called villages. There's a city, Georgetown's a city, and then there's a fire protection district on there. I've called them all villages. They can enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement to set up their own ordinance violation administrative adjudication process. Or they can go to circuit court as they did before we were handling them. So they have options.
That's good.
Did all the communities agree with this okay, and there's no rebuttal on it?
We have not circulated it out because
Okay.
one, we didn't think that was appropriate until you all had a chance to
I
chime in and
understand.
vote on this.
That's true.
The reason we are doing this now, We have to notify the villages by, I believe it's 90 days. So it's a little bit before February, because February is a shortened month. And we would like to notify them as soon as possible so they can begin the transitionary process, at least set up. Those that don't have formal relations with legal counsel, whether, on staff like we have here in Danville or outside legal counsel, they're going to have to retain folks like that. And of course, we will cooperate with them in transitioning cases and providing them what they need. And all in terms of cases here in the administrative adjudication process that are pending as of the close of business at the end of April, which is, I guess, April 29, because I think the 30th is on a Saturday or may even be a Sunday. We will continue to handle those because they are in the system. Small claims cases, we will not. There are a lot of them. Some of them are very old, and they're going to have to make decisions, and some of them may not be prosecutable because the judgments before my time are limited and have to be renewed and we've not done that, or my predecessors, to my knowledge, have not done that. So they're going to have to pick up and cull through cases. We have cases going back to 2004, 2003 of our own and of villages. For ourselves, it's partly because of getting on the dockets across the street to prosecute. So that will loosen that up.
I support this 100% because that's what we have our circuit court for. And so these villages are small cities. I mean, they can take their cases. I mean, take it there. I mean, we've done them justice. We've helped them. It was just the goodness, and as the mayor said, courtesy. We've done this, so it's not like we're abandoning them. They don't have any resources.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what back in 2004, when the first intergovernmental agreement was approved by you all, I don't even know whether this was more or less a temporary situation, give it just a couple of years so they can begin to transition off of this or not, but obviously it hasn't happened. We need your support for this because we need to devote our resources to you all.
Alderman Pertel,
Yes.
Oh.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands.
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, Poor,
Yes,
6 yes.
6 yes. Any items of information, Corp Counsel?
The only thing I can say is thank you very much. If I don't, well, I will see you next week, but if I don't for some reason, happy holiday.
Okay, moving on to item number 11, we have police, Chief Yates. We have 11A, a resolution approving the acceptance of the award for the 2021 cops hiring program. Grant, need a motion, put that on the table, please.
So moved.
Second.
Chief?
Yes, what this is the COPS grant that we were approved for or selected through the COPS office and the COPS hiring program grant. It's going to award $750,000 over a 3-year period to go towards 6 officers, which the intent is to retain them for the 4th year, hopefully thereon after. Due to the fact that there's a lot of details in it, in the file, I put down somewhat of a narrative, and I can answer any questions based on it. Essentially, out of the 6 officers, you're going to have a crime scene unit. You're going to have a domestic violence officer and a community liaison officer, and that will be primarily how the manpower is going to be used.
And to be clear, more seasoned officers will be placed into those 6 positions, and then we'll be able to use the newer officers for patrol.
Yes.
Questions?
I'm excited about this, but I'm wondering, looking ahead, after that 4th year, is there any way that we can retain this, or what happens after the 4th year? Or do you know, or is it speculation, or what?
Well, it's my intent to figure out a way to maintain them. There's different options that we can look at in the future and funding possibilities, as well as even applying for the grant again. There's nothing saying that we cannot apply for that grant multiple times or consecutive grant periods.
In the past Alderman ones, we have had it for successive periods, primarily prior to my time on the council, but we have had before. The other thing is, that, we should have more money coming for our casino. We know that that's one of those areas that might cause us to have to do a little more in this area. So if in a worst case scenario, I would say we might be able to use some of the funds from that to help retain the officers, especially if we're seeing the kind of results we're all hoping for.
And Chief, I think when you and I talked, you're currently down 4, and this would get another 6, which would be 10. But it's getting them in the academy and things and getting them on the street that's going to take some time, correct?
Yeah, actually, I got with the mayor and I wanted to be very proactive in the way we address not only recruiting and retention, but hiring. And I don't know if I've ever discussed what we do with separation counseling. So I have a pretty good idea whenever officers are leaving, and I can project where we need to hire to where we're not a large number of officers down. We had 4 officers either resign or separate during periods between the academies. So what we did was when we went to the Police and Fire Board, I went with requested that 6 officers would be selected to fill 4 positions. And then we have additional officers on standby based off information that we have, and we can have them prepared to go towards academies. Now, the academies initially only gave us two slots because you have so many departments across the states that, were down large numbers. We were down temporarily based on things that we can't control, with always the intent to hire immediately. However, I believe that due to COVID and smaller class sizes, as well as people needing to hire after seeing the negative consequences of not keeping their manpower up, it caused a shortage of open slots. However, today I received excellent news. We sent 4 to get medical and psychological evaluations last Friday, just the case because we're on a waiting list in every academy in the state. And we were contacted today, so we will be sending 4 in January. And to be quite honest, if you approve this a grant, I've got everybody on standby waiting to go as soon as we get academy slots, and we'll figure out a way to train them. But the academy will limit somewhat how many we can send it all at once. And plus, it is a concern logistically as well as manpower wise to train anything more than 6. But we also have lateral hire prospects. But we'll figure it out. You give me, if you approve it, I'll figure the rest of the stuff out. I got smarter people than me around me, so we can get that done.
You can handle that problem.
Yeah.
Question for Chief Yates.
And if you have any questions about the individual positions on the domestic violence officer as well as the community liaison officer, those are different, especially the domestic violence officer with the initiatives that we're setting forth starting January 1st. We're going to need that position right away because we're doing some things that are quite aggressive and proactive in regards to addressing the domestic violence issues.
Alderman Brown.
Chief Yates, you have a procedure you use for choosing the officers for these positions?
Well, I'd like to think that we can choose them within the police department. However, we can give them guidance and they can ask me questions based off their background checks. However, we have a police under our process. We have a civilian board of fire and police commissioners that make the selections. And right now we have, like I said, we have 4 notified that they'll be going to the academy and 2 on standby for the next 2 openings. And we've got, our list isn't big, but the quality on the list is excellent. And I'm very confident that we'll have some very good candidates for you and a very diverse group of candidates.
Okay, so then the police and fire board, they'll be doing.
They make the official selections. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Pashard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, Pertel,
Yes.
Poor,
Yes,
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Chief, any items of information?
Yeah, we've got a lot going on, but I'll just stick to the things that are happening right now. Our LPRs, they're in the process. We should have 24 of the 30 installed by January 1. They've been in town assessing these sites, and they'll be back in town tomorrow. And then I'll have the sergeant that has taken the initiative and done a lot of work to go with them during the installs, as well as other city personnel. The reason why we won't have all 30 is because some of them require IDOT approval, and that's a process that they project to be hopefully no more than 6 weeks, but in some cases it can be.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to item number 12, Public Transportation Director Beeth. You gave us your monthly report and items of information. Yes.
Sure.
You guys
Thank
vote on
you.
that?
I'm sorry?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
You've got it, Chief.
I'm a little nervous. Plus, first time I've ever
Calm
drank
down.
Java Monster.
Okay. First thing I was just going to talk about was the schedule for the holidays. We will not have bus service on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. And then on both Friday, Christmas Eve and Friday, New Year's Eve, we run a Saturday schedule, which is a 12-hour workday as opposed to a 16-hour service day. So it's a little bit shortened schedule on both those Fridays. We just talked to ETA, who provides our CAT AVL system on our buses, and we're making the transition from 4G or 3G to 4G format, which we thought by now we would be out of compliance with the 3G, but fortunately they've kind of pushed that date back. The last week in January, we'll be updating all of our equipment to push it to the 4G format so that we can continue to use all that equipment that we've purchased. So that's the last week in January. And then the only other thing I have here is that TSA has extended the mask mandate on public transportation and in public transportation facilities. And the extension is until at least March the 18th. They've pushed it back, like this is the fourth time, I think. So we're looking at March 18th, and it could go further than that. But and I have to tell you, the people of Danville, or the people that ride our buses, have been so compliant with this. I mean, we do not get people that give us a hard time about it. So we've been very fortunate.
I attribute a lot to that, to the way our drivers treat people. We thank you for that.
Questions for Director Beast? Thank you, Director. Okay, moving on to item number 13, Public Works, Director Carpenter. 13A is an ordinance authorizing the vacation of a public utility easement or part thereof at 266 Eastgate Drive, Fort Vermillion Development, Inc. Need a motion to put that on the table, please?
So moved.
Second.
Let Sam take that.
All right. So essentially, the property owner reached out to us. This easement was platted as part of the original subdivision plat. To our knowledge, it is not being utilized. We reached out to all the utility companies to confirm that. It currently runs under their actual building. And in order to, kind of make sure that's not an issue going forward, they asked that we, basically, this isn't a super common process for us. There's kind of two options. You can replat the whole site, or we chose to allow them to take this kind of public approach that's similar to a alley vacation that basically creates a public record that we're hereby vacating it. We did put language in there that if there happen to be utilities nobody knows about, they can still operate, as they exist today, but it would prohibit people from placing new ones in that area.
Questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, Pertel,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13B is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of real property. Need a motion to put that on the table.
So moved.
Second.
This is actually the old Bullock Garage area on South Gilbert. As we all know, that those buildings are all collapsing and falling in on themselves. So it'll be good to remove that blight. And then there are some developers that have shown interest in that plot.
Questions on 13B? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, Pertel,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands.
Yes.
4,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13C is an ordinance approving the acceptance of permanent and temporary easements for the Townway Drainage Area Improvement Project. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
I'm kind of sad Alderman Iverson's not here for this one because this is right in his neck of the woods. But anyway, this is a project we started work. It was actually had begun before I got here, actually as city engineer. We developed plans to deal with some drainage issues that were created by kind of railroad widening and eliminating ditches in the backyards of several properties that's caused a lot of flooding back there. So this has been, it's part of the stormwater master plan. The project was designed partially in-house, partially with structural engineers consulted out. And essentially this secures all the easements that are needed for us to go out to bid on this project, which we anticipate doing this winter. So,
Any questions?
If you've seen the pictures, it's bad. Tanisha Jimson, she could go swimming in her backyard when it's really unsafe.
Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, Pertel,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13D is an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a donation of certain real property. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
all right. So the property that is being donated or that we're suggesting we accept as a donation is on South Bowman Avenue. It's just south of Stony Creek. It'd be the southern crossing of Bowman Avenue over Stony Creek. There are a couple lots that are adjacent to Bowman Avenue and then a larger lot that adjoins Stony Creek. Really, we're not looking at this as a development parcel or anything like that. There are some utilities that go through that area. We envision, in the long term, it'd be great to have a greenway or a green belt along Stony Creek through this community. And this is some property that we can pick up for free to help kind of retain and work towards that long-term goal. So.
Questions for the engineer? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Iverson, Pertel,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13E is an ordinance establishing vehicle weight limits on certain routes. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All right. This is, I think, as you're reading the ordinance, essentially we have ordinances that previously prohibited truck route or truck traffic on, I think it's Daniel Street and a couple blocks of Vermilion Street. IDOT pointed out that those are impractical restrictions and suggested we put actual weight limits on them. So we basically came up with 12 tons, which is roughly the weight of probably around an unloaded like school bus type thing, but none of these restrictions would prohibit, garbage trucks, utility trucks, things like that from going down there. More or less, it's just to prohibit through traffic of semis and tandems for nearby businesses. So.
Alderman O'Kane.
How's it going to work downtown? Same, I'm supposed to think same way, but we've always tried to talk people out of, or the truckers out of going through there.
Right.
And I've seen several lately
Yeah, so it's currently prohibited by ordinance that trucks would go down there at all. There's not necessarily signage. So what comes out of this is that IDOT, within the last couple of years, they started a database that truckers can look at that tell them where truck weight restrictions are. So now that we have a weight limit, they can put that in there. And if there's like routes that they're planning, then they should avoid those routes. There are, in general, it's not advisable to go down there for trucks because it's pretty tight. There's little jogs kind of in the roadway. We could post it if we saw a lot of issues with it and I had complaints, we could post it, but I don't know that it's posted now. So.
And there won't be restriction for companies coming in, redeveloping and or demoing.
Right. Basically, these are restrictions. If they are working within that location, let's say somebody needs to replace an air conditioning unit and they need a crane in there, or they need access to work or deliver something to a building that's located within those 2 blocks, they can still do that. They just can't use that as like a through route for trucks.
Other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Patel,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Swans,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, 4,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13F is an ordinance amending Chapter 77 of the City Code pertaining to one-way streets. Need a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this pertains particularly to Johnson Street, which is a throughway between Bowman Avenue and Collett. For many, many years, it has been a two-way street, but was still listed in the Code of Ordinance as a one-way street. In the last 2 weeks, I got a call from an alderman. There's some residents that desired to clean up that area and asked for no littering signage. Upon contacting our sign guy, he stated that it was still marked as a one-way street and wanted to make sure we got that cleared up. He's very astute at making us aware of many of our traffic issues with signage and actual streets where no parking or one-way or two-way are. So this would just address that and actually make it a two-way street in the ordinance.
Questions?
I just have an observation that it must have gone back when the horses were down Johnson Hill to Collett, because cars can stop there pretty easy.
Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Bouchard,
Yes.
Swans,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, Patel,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13G is a resolution awarding the time and materials contract for securing 139 to 141 North Vermillion, commonly known as the Adams Building. Need a motion and a second? Put that on the table, please.
So moved.
Second.
You'll
Okay.
notice that the work here has already been done. However, it was done under emergency order. We had glass falling out of the windows in 4 primary areas. One was out front on the sidewalk. We were afraid that someone might get hurt or killed from it. It was falling into the building next door and puncturing the roof, as well as in the back parking and the front parking areas as well. So it created immediate hazard. Under such circumstances, I have the authority to remedy it. However, because it's over the purchasing limit, that's why it's being brought to you after the fact, because it still has to be technically approved.
Thank you.
That building's no longer in use right now. There's no
It's-
business in it.
It's not currently, but it's one of the buildings downtown that's still nice and it's still for, an indefinite period salvageable, and it's one of the more appealing period buildings, Alderman. So we hope that we can save it. And this was done in an effort, number one, to keep people safe, but also to help preserve it so that hopefully it could be reused.
This is also the building that quite often we would receive calls from
Oh, yes.
dispatch. The vagrants were constantly in it. There was even an infant in it like a year and a half ago with some people. So it was imperative that we got this all boarded up and secured.
They had taken to throwing metal out of the window. And I mean, for example, there was a whole cast iron tub thrown out of there at one point that had landed on anyone's car or on any person. They would have been dead. There was also evidence of drug use and Another big fear was that goes, you all remember what happened at the Gulick building downtown, and we could have half of our downtown gone pretty quickly. So
Alderman O'Kane.
Is there a written assessment of the building for the future? And does it have a roof that works?
I can tell you that it had been written up and is in our legal process. As far as the roof, I am not 100% sure. There wasn't. I'm not.
It's right now, it's still salvageable and it's not leaking profusely, which is one of the other reasons we boarded the building up, is to stop the weather from getting inside of it as well. Will the roof last another 10 years? Probably not.
At all, Alderman O'Kane.
Well, I just hate spending the money, but it's always spent.
Anyone else? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Wands?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Iverson, Pertel?
Yes.
Shard?
Yes.
4,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13H is a resolution approving an environmental services for the 101 West North Street. Need a motion, put that on the table, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, this is the final expenditure we will see other than the actual billing for the dump fees. As you notice, that building actually was taken down last week, and outside of the basement, it's gone. This Midwest Environmental Consulting is who we've been using recently for all of the asbestos specifications. They do the testing, and then they actually get the bid set for the other one that you approved last month to actually remove the asbestos. They got to us late with the price on this. This is why this is coming in late to you.
Questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman O'Kane?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Iverson? Pertel?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Wands?
Yes.
4,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13I is a resolution authorizing application for the DCEO's Rebuild Downtowns and Main Streets Capital Grant Program to improve and encourage investment in the downtown area. I need a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Who's
I'll
this,
take a
Logan?
little bit of airtime from Sam at the beginning here. Yeah, so that we are seeking the council's approval to apply for this DCO Main Streets and Downtown grant. The maximum award for this grant is $3 million, and municipalities are not required to have a match, although it does help, it appears, by the application. Other than that, I will let Sam discuss the kind of project scope that we're proposing in the application and kind of the implications as to why we're doing it to achieve a better score for the application.
Sure. So the overall project limits, I think hopefully you can look at your map, but it's kind of Madison Street on the north, Franklin Street on the west, Main Street on the south, and Washington Street on the east. And we've identified this as kind of our key area. Admittedly, we don't have the final locations for this grant and exactly what the grant application is going to be ironed out yet. There's a lot of work going on internally with us right now and with consultants, putting together cost estimates for various improvements. Some of the improvements would be road improvements, sidewalk improvements, drainage, lighting. We looked at doing, storm and sanitary sewer lining. All told, the cost of all that work will exceed $3 million by probably a handsome number. The question, becomes, what do we put in the grant? And then, are there other commitments that the city will make to, whether that be sewer lining with the sewer fund money, other things down the road? We don't have that information for you today because the timeline is such that we are continuing to work on that and prepare a grant application. The goal of the grant is to basically assist businesses in bringing back, basically benefit businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19, specifically focusing on main streets and downtown areas. This is a program that goes through Danville, or not Danville, Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO. And, we identified this area as a really competitive area for us. So it's a team of, Logan, myself, the mayor, Ashton Greer, Ashland's had some input on it. And then consultants all working on putting together a competitive grant. And, I'd like to come back and tell you exactly what the application is, but it will be due before the next Public Works meeting. So we won't have the opportunity to do that, but we can provide that to you when we get the application ready. So, and ultimately, you're approving the application. If we were to receive the grant, then we would be coming back with, resolutions or ordinances to accept the funds, do that as well. So.
Questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Brown,
Yes.
Iverson, Pertel,
Yes.
Yes.
Bouchard, Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Poor,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13J is a resolution approving the request for assistance from the IEPA and the US EPA in relation to community-wide environmental work in the city of Danville. Need a motion to put that on the table, please?
So move.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is going to be round 2 for the application of this grant. Last year, we attempted to apply for this grant, and we were not awarded. No municipality in the state of Illinois was awarded last year, but they did change the rules. The city of Danville has had this grant in 3-year cycle since 2010. This is the first time the EPA has allowed us to apply for $400,000. Typically, it's $300,000 or less. So with your approval, we will be applying for $400,000, and that will run for a 3-year cycle. The benefit of not being awarded last year, we are still operating out of our 2017 grant cycle. We're finishing up that grant at the corner of Fairchild and Vermilion on the First Farmers Bank site and the other properties. But the general use of these funds go towards sites that are contaminated, essentially, or thought to be contaminated. Examples of that are like First Farmers Bank. We have identified petroleum and dry cleaner solvents. 2 sites at the Carl project were identified to be polluted and brownfield sites. So really, we as a municipality, being as old as we are, we do have a lot of these old dry cleaner and gas station sites, so we can definitely utilize the maximum allowed allocation for this grant. And yes, and it has to be for redevelopment purposes. There's other stipulations along with it, but we have to prove the need, or let's just say the traffic counts like at First Farmers Bank, to show that it is a viable redevelopment site.
Questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderman Iverson, Pertel,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Poor,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13K, items of information, Director.
Yes, I'd just like to remind everybody that Friday at noon, the Public Works facility is hosting the City of Danville's Christmas party this year. We will have extra food if anybody hasn't signed up and they still wish to come. Would like to see all the aldermen there if at all possible. In other news, we continue to sweep as long as the weather holds out for us. We actually have some snow in the forecast for December 26th. So if you're traveling, please be safe coming home. That's all I've got. Yes, yeah.
And just one thing to add, you will, I think, per our purchasing policy, when we have emergency situations, we're supposed to let you all know that expenses may be coming down the pipeline. We're not sure what they are. So 617 North Vermilion, it's a building that we are demolishing, or has been getting demolished. It's near the railroad tracks, just north of the former Milliken Dry Cleaners building. So in the demolition process, there's a shared wall between that building and the adjacent building. So kind of what you see is the remaining wall there. There are definitely going to be some some additional expenses in waterproofing that wall, putting some kind of a skin on it or whatever to waterproof that, and waterproof the roof connection, which they were kind of flashed together very oddly. Previously, we have engaged an architect to come up with some details for us to follow, and we'll be working with the demolition contractor to basically expand the contract to get all that work done. At this point, ballpark estimates and the additional work range from $40,000 to $75,000. So we were not going to know the exact scope of that until probably early January, and we expect to get that work underway as soon as possible because of the waterproofing, issues. For the time being, we'll be placing tarps and things like that to try to basically keep weather out of that facility. But anyway, just want to let you all know it's not a situation that we can bid out because it's kind of it's a rapid need, and the scope is pretty unknown at this point. So,
okay.
The second building, the one behind, was built after the first one. Why aren't they responsible for the wall?
Well, that's a good question, but it's a shared property. I think the way that we look at it is we're the ones making the change that made this a exterior wall, what was formerly an interior wall, and have created, an opening in their roof line that would allow weather in. So that's really where I think they are definitely working with us to an extent, and are making some changes themselves. But, what we don't want to leave is a spot where water gets in and the city ultimately becomes liable for an issue there. And we certainly don't want to see the building deteriorate more. It's actually in pretty good shape on the inside, what's remaining there. So
What was the age of the masonry building that went down?
That's, who knows, but if you recall, that was the old CL dye dump.
It was
Yeah.
an old metal
Yeah.
building. And
yeah,
A long time.
1800s.
I'd be very anxious about keeping that wall freestanding without having to put some structural to it with my expertise.
Yeah, well, that's one reason we engaged architects, and they have, they'll have a structural engineer look at it as well.
Cheaper to tear it down and put a new metal wall up.
Yeah, it's an interesting construction. Let's just say that it's not common in this day and age.
And again, I still can't believe the person that attached to that building wouldn't be responsible.
Well, and just to add to that, Alderman O'Kane, every building we've torn down in the last 10 years that I'm aware of that's been shared a wall with another building, the city has always repaired the remaining wall.
And I've always questioned that.
Yeah.
It's like we got deeper pockets.
Logan.
Yeah. I just wanted to announce that it appears that we have made our final rental assistant grant applications. We are finishing up processing the last 15 or 20, and that sounds a lot, but it turns out we actually ended up processing and awarding around 700 checks for rental assistance. I'm super proud of our team. This was a big feat, seeing that the state is slightly struggling with their program. To have a staff of 3 push out almost $700,000 it's an incredible feat. Huge shout out to Community Development Specialist Christina Turner and our planner Natasha Elliott. They have been warriors for the last 2 years on this program, and have served our residents very well with this program.
Thank you.
We helped a lot of people to be able to stay in their homes.
Okay, that concludes the Public Works. Thank you, Director and staff. Alderman Ludwig and Pickering, do you want to come up here? We'll take a couple minute break. Yeah, if they want to sit at the front tables, and we'll take a couple minute break while they're getting ready. I know they have some material to pass up before we move on to item 14.
While we're waiting, I'll just tell you informally, you may have noticed a couple of times that you come downtown and there are some of the lights you've seen previously that are not working. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of a Clark Griswold situation on our hands where we have so much stuff being lighted that it's tripping circuits. So our electrician team has been working to get that fixed so that everything stays on all the time. So If you see any intermittent outages, that's
tomorrow.
likely it. Absolutely.
This is just a proposed amendment
Thank you.
to chapter 52.
Chairman Poor, and then we have 3 more aldermen there as well.
If you don't want to stay, you don't have to stay.
1 more alderman, and then we'll need a copy for the city clerk as well, please.
You can leave too if you want. I'm serious. This doesn't pertain. I don't want to be ungrateful. Yeah, but it doesn't pertain to anything you do. I'm very grateful that you realize this.
Okay, so in front of you, you have.
Alderman Ludwig, we may need just a few more minutes. They took a brief recess, I believe, an unofficial recess.
I'll send you a dossier in the morning.
Hopefully we can finally focus on us. I did have 1 call. Call me if it's business for me.
Okay, yeah, Tilton's the only one.
I hope this isn't salary things, because we've been doing well with children. Gotta help them in another way though, so hopefully.
We gotta end these things.
Department heads, if there are any of you that wish to leave, if you don't have anything more, you're welcome. There's no need that you have to stay.
Okay. Chairman Burke, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anytime, chief. Both chiefs, anytime.
My Christmas lights are blowing. I have to go out and push those things, especially if it's raining.
If you haven't driven by Alderman, we should have got you put on the list, even though you're not in the contest, just like Mrs. Alderman Pickering. We should have put you on there too, because your house is beautiful.
Thank you.
If you haven't had a chance, you should drive by, y'all.
I do it for the pure joy of it.
Last session, did we actually vote on closing Robinson? I know we voted on how in Logan they closed, but that notification I got today says we're closing Robinson permanently.
I'm pretty sure it was in there. I would have to look to verify, but yes, I believe so.
Is in the initial,
In the initial plat.
I mean, it was written out or it was just part of a picture.
I'm not sure, Chairman. Vice Chairman, I would need to look.
I sure don't remember it, but that doesn't mean it wasn't done.
Well, we met with the library because they were concerned about Lafayette and different things.
The museum.
Yeah, that'd be the museum, yeah. The price is right. Okay, looks like everybody's back. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 14, discussion of municipal solid waste collection ordinance. This will be discussion only. There'll be no action taken. And I'm going to turn it over to our table of older women. Currently, you want to go over and sit with them, Heidi? No.
Chairman Poor, and to the other council members, this ordinance on the solid waste collection, there were some concerns, and we saw a lot of unreadiness last week at the full city council. So because there were some concerns. I voted no simply because of the unreadiness. I think we need to look at this a little closer. So you have before you the help of our corporate counsel, James Simon, putting this together and ask you to look over it and see what you think. We'd like to take this back to the full council at the first meeting in January. I think it's January 4th, if I'm not mistaken.
Alderman Brown, could you or Alderman Pickering or Alderman Ludwig kind of just briefly walk
Okay,
the committee
sure.
through the changes that you made?
Yes. Alderman Ludwig.
You
Can you hear me?
a little bit
Is my
more.
mic on?
Go down a little more.
Well, I think that there's interest in reviving the amendments to Chapter 52 regarding the toters and the penalties. And I think after discussing with a few alderpersons who had voted no on this individually, to find out what issues they had with the amended ordinance for which they voted no, there were two issues that people had, whom I had discussed with individually. One was some wanted a reset, which wasn't part of the amended ordinance that was presented last week. Most wanted a one-year reset. So under 5299, under penalties, that section, that has been put in place. But first, the other concern was that there were steep penalties for violations. And so for the citations, people were going to be receiving very steep penalties. So under section 5299B, that had been changed with this proposal. So how the fining for the violations works is there would be a first warning issued upon your first violation. And then the second warning, if you look under B1, the second is not a warning. The violation is a $50 fee. Now, if you pay that within 10 days, your fee is reduced to $25. For your third and subsequent violations, each one of those would be $100. And if you paid those within 10 days, it would be $50. And prior to this, the fee was quite a bit higher. So I think everybody was interested in bringing that fee down. So those are the changes there. Additionally, there's a cap. So if you look at section 5299 B3, the cap is $250 for each instance of violation. So for example, if there were 4 different violations issued on that particular toter, the cap for that instance would be $250. And then if you paid that, it would be reduced down to $125 as far as what I understand. Did we put that in there? So is that not the case?
In the draft I supplied you, that is not the case.
So I
But the other part of
retract
it
that.
is if there are multiple violations noted on a single inspection, I believe that's what this subpart or subsection 3 really addresses.
The highest.
And also on one day, if they note garbage strewn all over, toter broken,
Right.
and maybe a few other things overstuffed as well, that's 3 violations right there. Still, the cap would be no more than $250.
Okay. So does that $250 mean that it's reduced down to $125, or is that the penalty? That is
That's
the penalty
no, the
that you pay?
$250 right now is drafted is the penalty.
Okay.
I mean, from my perspective, but again, this is a policy decision, not a legal decision. But from my perspective, if you're getting into 3rd and 4th and 5th violations, maybe somebody needs a little stronger shot in the arm. And I don't mean
Okay.
COVID shot.
Okay. All right. Okay, so back to part 50 or section 5299 penalties A, back to the 1-year reset. So this is legalese, so it's a little bit confusing. So I'm just going to walk through this. Take off my glasses because I can't see very well with them on. Okay, so what
odd.
this is saying is if this is voted up and once this is rolled out, we're going to have a date here. So that's why it says during the period blank 2022, because it's going to roll out next year. We don't know what the date is there, so that's blank. Through December 31st, and that should state December 31st, 2022. So that's going to be next year at the end of the year. That's going to be our first year rolling this thing out. And so there will be a reset upon how this is operating. So you'll have the warning, you'll have your second violation, which would be the $50 fee, and then your third and subsequent, I can't say that word today, subsequent violations would be the $100. So within that year, well, it's a partial year, you will have all of those things potentially. But once the new year rolls around, which would be January 1st of 2023, then that is the reset date. So you would start again. If your first violation occurs, that would be a warning. And then your second violation would be $50 and so forth. And that would end then January 31st, 2023. So, and that would just continue each year and just roll over each year that you would have that reset. Okay.
What, are these fines being assessed to the property address or to the, in the case of a rental property, the landlord, or is it going to be assessed to the person that's actually
The owner of the property.
not holding tenants responsible in any way, shape, or form?
That's right. That would be very difficult for the city to do that.
That would be up to the landlord.
Okay.
May I interject also in Chapter 9312 states that no person shall allow or permit the accumulation of garbage, refuse, solid waste, rubbish, ashes, or debris on property under her ownership. So if you was to change 52 to say the tenant, you'd have to change 93.212.
I'm just a question. I just
Right.
want clarification.
One of the main reasons it would be very difficult to track with the tenant being obligated is leases expire at different times. There are evictions, tenants just up and leave. And the city has no way of tracking tenancy. We don't get copies of leases. We don't know when they start, when they end. And it would be a horrendous task if we started tracking that.
Yeah. My question is, if we're gonna, if a fine's assessed because of a tenant causing issues, and we find that landlord, then they have a new tenant comes in, and then they cause problems, and they're just gonna keep getting hit with fines and fees.
Well, and this is what I would say. Your landlord will have that. I mean, he knows that he's in violation. So what he would do is, I mean, the next tenant that comes, he would explain that to the tenant. We have a violation. So we need to, make sure that this doesn't happen, because the next time it will be X amount of dollars.
But we will send, once we pass this, we'll send this to all the landlords, the new
Yes.
rules, regulations, different things like that. So they will know right up front,
Yeah.
these are going to be costs incurred by your property, regardless of whether you cause it or the tenant caused it.
Right, and Chairman Ford, the other thing I just would like to bring this out is that we didn't put anything there as far as the landlord and the tenant, because that would be agreement between them. I believe the landlord would include this in his lease of agreement.
Okay.
Or his, whoever, her.
And I have a question, because the penalties as far as the reset. I guess I really don't understand. We talked about this, but I still don't understand. So as of, like, it ends in December, as of January, it would clear everything that previous year. Okay, so my concern is this. If you get why even put out violations in December?
Well, I mean, once you receive the violation, you still owe on it, but then you would get reset. You wouldn't. So if you had, say, you were on your third violation, your third violation you received in December.
Mhm.
You would still have to pay on that. But come January 1st, you wouldn't be receiving a fourth or fifth violation. You would get a warning.
So,
You
so
would
they would
start
still,
over.
Alderman Pickering, they would still owe all of the fees that they've encumbered,
Mhm.
and they would still be required to pay those. That's not starting over. But what's starting over is the clock. So you get, then the next year, if you had violations in the previous year, the next year you would start at 0. Then you would get a warning. Then you would have the first fine and such.
Right,
But
okay.
you're not. But they would still be required to pay any of the fines that they've encumbered.
We're not
Okay.
forgiving any
Yeah, fees
obligation.
are-
Yeah, that's not that part's not starting
So
over.
if they get a letter that they violated it in December, does that drop then?
No.
Okay. Then okay, because I didn't understand this reset. Been having
So-
trouble with this because I didn't want everybody to say, hey, it's done, we'll start all over again.
So
Okay.
the fines will be assessed for a calendar year.
Mhm.
At the end of that year, the beginning of the new year, it starts a new record, but previous fines and things are still on the docket to be collected.
So I get what you're saying, Sherry, that if someone's violated in December with a warning, come January, by what this is, it would reset, and then they would, if they violated again in February, it would only be a warning.
Right.
But you just said no.
No, I think what we were saying is that the reset, whatever by December 31st, whatever you incurred that time, that still remains. Now it resets. If you start violating again in January, that starts it for that particular year.
Right.
That still doesn't say that December, that is forgotten. No.
I get that, but I was saying that's what Sherry was asking, and Ms. Ludwig said no. So
Yeah.
it was confusing, so I was just
Oh, okay.
clarifying
Yeah.
that is true, that no matter if it was your first warning or your third offense, in January 1, it all ceases and you got a new slate. But you still have to pay the same fines
That's right.
Right.
that were already previously.
Yeah, that's correct.
Corporation Council.
Each, for the first period, which would start whatever date you select,
Right.
through December 31, that's one period. And you go through the cycle, starting with a warning, going through however many subsequent violations. At the end of December 31, the process of warning, first fine, second fine, et cetera, start over. As Alderman Poor succinctly stated, nothing is forgiven from, just because you start all over. So let's say somebody does their first violation on December 15th or 20th, and they're noted and they're cited, it would be a warning. And let's say on January 3rd of the next year, 2023, again, they have some kind of a violation, the first or set of violations on the first inspection, they would get a warning. It'd have no impact on 2022, and whatever happens in 2023, 24 will have no impact. The point being is, over time, we recognize that some homeowners and tenants may kind of forget. And so, again, it's kind of a gentle nudge once a year is kind of a grace period. It's like some communities have with parking, where they get a warning about parking. You're allowed to get a citation without a ticket once a year. I know it's in Champaign. I don't know if it's in other communities. Well, like a couple of communities, you get a warning first. And every year you get it. It all starts again. You get a warning to start out with. One other thing, though, there is a blank in this section A. And I would encourage you all, if you are planning on adopting this thing or sending it on to council, or at least discussing it and then bring it back to council, that if possible, that the start, and again, this would also require Carl, because he's got to get, make sure toters are available for people who want second toters, and also for the noticing and publicity of this thing. But we would hope my inspectors would hope it would start on February 1, because winter in many areas of inspection are like grass and weeds are kind of down. And they could kind of go through the community, through their territory or their areas and their 10 sectors, and concentrate on this and hopefully nip some of this in the bud. There are always going to be those who, for whatever reason, will have multiple violations throughout the year. But if we can cut down on those folks, it's certainly going to make many neighborhoods or more neighborhoods, more attractive without the garbage all over and toters all over. So that's, originally it was, I think, January 1st, but when you all decided not to approve it, I think we went to February 1st, if I'm not mistaken. But that's what we would encourage. That way they can, quote, blitz the areas.
Legal counsel. What is, there's a rule, and I don't remember exactly. Somebody from the majority vote can ask to have the vote redone?
It would, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's somebody who voted against it, if I'm not mistaken, could ask. But in this situation, that wouldn't apply, because if you think these amendments help this ordinance, it's a new ordinance.
Okay.
But somebody could, of the majority, you could ask to
I was just trying to
reconsider.
get it back sooner.
Isn't that the name, reconsider?
Right.
Yeah, it would be, but technically it wouldn't be a reconsideration. But yes, somebody could, if that's how they wish to phrase it, reconsider. And of course, the council, if Alderman Poor is kind enough and we're all good to him, he might allow this on the Public Works agenda in January so we can get it on the council. Either way.
The other thing that we could do is if we have a majority of the aldermen here, if you were amenable, we could bring it directly to council next week. Actually, that would give the public and the landlords even more notice than if we waited until January to vote on it.
But like Corporation Council said, I think we need a date certain in here, and the original ordinance did have February
sure,
1st,
of
2022.
course.
Okay.
And the other thing, Vice Chairman O'Kane, that I think you're thinking about is zoning, because I had that same question. If it's a zoning matter, that does have to be recalled within a certain period. And it has to be recalled by someone who voted no, but this does not.
I was just
You're
thinking.
right. You're
get it back
absolutely right.
Easier and sooner.
And then also in the exhibit you guys provided, you've got blank of 22 through December 31st of 21. So that needs to be
Right,
correct.
that needs to be changed too.
Would you all be comfortable with us inserting a date of February 1st and then also taking it to full council next week?
Yes.
Yes.
May I?
This gives us
Chairman.
enough time to get it out to the public.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That would give us, because it would be on the agenda for next week, which everyone would get by this Friday.
Okay.
And then also that would give us more time to get notices out to the public about this change and to the landlords before that February 1st date takes effect.
May,
Yes, ma'am. We are. We have to pass our budget next week, Alderman Pickering. Don't scare me like that.
Yeah.
Gotta do
Our
that.
tax levy
And we don't
especially.
get none of this other stuff done.
Corporation Council.
I realize this is not an action item, but you might want to, so you don't waste time discussing it next week, if there's not at least, a solid vote to bring this back to council. And also, you certainly can take a straw poll. It wouldn't be binding on anyone, and they could switch their vote. They could anyway.
And I think several people here were confused by the original and wanted some clarification as why they voted no on the original one last week. So,
I don't want to throw a wrench in anyone's plans, but I think council needs to look at chapter 93, because the penalties for everything that you've got listed in 5206 A, B, C, and D are also in 93. And it says the penalties for any of those violations is $250, no less than $250, and no more than $1,000 for each offense. So I don't want to see you guys pass this and then somewhere down the road, there be major confusion with what's in 93.
And that is also in your Dropbox if you need to see that.
Corporation Counsel.
Alderperson Ludwig and I discussed this, and it was her plan, and we could do it next week, is to strip out the toter type stuff, the solid waste stuff, because there are other things in 92. There are other things in there that are not related to this, and bring this all into this one. The reason it wasn't presented tonight is we didn't want to interject more confusion. But now that Director Carpenter has interjected more confusion, not really. He's right. He's absolutely right in what he says. The only thing that we found that was conflicting were the penalties and all. And we could strip, there are a couple of sections that are in there that go a little bit beyond this, like garbage flying all over the place and all. But and there are a couple of sections we would have to rewrite this, and I'm very happy to do that for you all. And that would be to amend the other chapter to delete, be strikeouts, on a red line legislative copy, and add those words and those sections into this one that you're looking at now, which of course would be underlined. It shouldn't create confusion, but talking about it and getting wrapped around can create confusion. I'm glad Director Carpenter brought it up, because really that's our goal. That was the original goal.
So those penalties do not need to be in Chapter 92 then?
No, they would remain because there are other things unrelated to solid
Okay,
waste.
But solid waste would be stripped out of 92 and put in.
Exactly, exactly.
Well,
I guess.
Ladies, are you, oh, go ahead.
Well, I just had a question. So if we voted on this, just this, then this would not supersede the 93? I mean,
You could argue, a lawyer could argue that 52 in terms of solid waste penalties would supersede 90, what is it, 92, 93? 93, because the solid waste 52 is a little more specific. And when you get into legislative interpretation that seems to be in conflict with other legislation, the law provides rules of construction of legislation, same with contracts, by the way, that the more specific provision prevails over the more general. But then if you think that they're equal, then lawyers fight it out. And that's the reason we would want to amend this, so we don't have lawyers fighting it out in ordinance violation court.
thank you.
Ladies and committee, would you all be amenable to him making those other small changes to 93 that need to be done and bringing that?
And then we
Vice
bring
Chairman.
that back to the full council next week.
Yes.
You'd have the whole weekend to look over the changes. And then we could vote on it Tuesday.
Yes.
What I will try to do for you all and the alder persons that are not here, but the whole council, is I will try to make these changes tomorrow. And then I will email them to the mayor, to Director Carpenter, and to the full council. And I will probably admonish you strongly, do not use reply all,
Right.
even trying to get back to me. Just reach out to me individually and do not discuss it among yourselves, because then you'll have an Open Meetings Act violation. We don't want that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your work on this.
Yep.
Did you have anything more?
Are you taking the straw poll? Or are we not going to?
We can, I mean, if that's, it's nothing binding,
Consensus,
but
yeah.
I mean, what's everybody's thoughts? I mean, everybody comfortable with that? We have there's 8 votes right here.
I want to get the garbage off the street.
Okay. I'm just curious if there's anybody that's opposed. I would like to, at some point, talk to that person if there is.
And I've talked to some of the other committee too,
Right.
but that I think are favorable to it, but
We will bring that. Thank you, ladies, for your work. I want to say I'm very excited and proud. I've been a part of this council either as an alderman, as the mayor now, for almost 13 years. And all of that time, myself and Alderman Pickering are the only people who have ever brought legislation before this council. So to see you all working to make this happen, I'm very proud and I appreciate your efforts. this is important for our citizens, so thank you.
And Mayor, I guess I have a question too, as long as
Sure.
we're on this. What's the chain of command as far as when you report something and send it to various people? Shouldn't you get a response when you ask questions? I mean, there was one particular address I sent the information to 5 different people with pictures, with the complaint, with the address, and I had one person respond from who I sent it to.
Usually the most informed person will respond instead of every person responding. And then if anyone else feels there's something that they need to add or take away, that they will comment on that. I'll be happy to follow up with you on that, Chairman. I'm sorry if there was any miscommunication.
Yeah. It was just because I mean, it was right, as a matter of fact, it was right after the vote last Tuesday, and then all of a sudden I was getting pictures and things of different addresses with garbage everywhere. They forgot to put it out, and then, garbage everywhere, garbage going into Stony Creek, going in, I mean, different things like that.
I
Some
know we
other-
got a couple of those. We got right on a couple of those things, I know.
But I
I'll
mean,
follow up with you, Chairman. I'm
okay.
Sorry. if
That-
there was
oh,
any
that's fine, that's fine.
miscommunication.
Anything else, ladies? And like the mayor said, it's great. I've been on council for 20 years and not been too many aldermen that actually wanted to push something forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mayor, all righty. No items of information. Anybody have anything? Items of information? Okay, no need for closed session. Having satisfied the agenda, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are opposed.
We're opposed or adjourned?
Oh, I'm sorry. We are-
So thank you.